Tiger Woods has an impressive 5 Masters victories, and he's been able to do that with a variety of different swings from different coaches. In this video, I'm going to look at the different swings from his wins at Augusta to compare the swings and see which one is best. So 1997 was Tiger's first Masters as a pro, so we're going to see here, this is definitely a young Tiger's swing. His swing was very explosive. It was short. It was big high draws with driver. Absolutely fearless. So you can see at address, he has quite a tall posture. His arms are quite relaxed, hanging down. The back of his arm sort of sits nicely above the sort of the ball of his feet, the middle of his foot. He's well in balance here. I actually think he's fairly sat back more to the sort of middle to heels of his feet in this swing more than in his others, but he's perfectly in balance. He stood nice and relaxed, and that allows him to make big turns and quick movement. So when Tiger first came out on tour, he played with a stronger left-hand grip. He got the club quite steep late in his backswing and actually played his golf from a shorter backswing position. Now, this is a fraction across the line. If the swing would continue to parallel, it would actually be across the line. So even though it's short, it is still technically across the line. It's interesting, he hasn't actually moved his hips very much. His right leg has stayed very firm, and he's obviously quite young at this stage in his career. He's very flexible, he's very mobile. So he's able to create a massive shoulder turn, a huge coil in his core without moving his legs very much on the way back, which is probably where this explosive speed comes from. Now, interestingly, in the downswing, what we're going to see is Tiger maintains the width in his arms and in the club really well at this point in his career. The club is sort of falling behind him. He's definitely playing a draw. And actually, what we're going to see here is, look at how open his hips are. Look how closed his shoulders are. That's a really impressive position, and that's like the separation we see today in McIlroy. And that's why at this point in his career, Tiger was a brilliant driver of the golf ball. As we move through impact, look at how his toes move away from that line. This was like the early Scotty Scheffler shuffle. Massive. And you can only do that if you're pushing away with your legs. You're sort of really extending the legs, the quads, the knees. And that amount of pressure just jumps your feet, gets him actually airborne and jumps his feet backwards. He then obviously massively extends into a finish position. Really, really good swing. This is probably one of my favourite swings that Tiger brought to the golfing world, the professional tour. The early Tiger swing is definitely one of my favourites. Moving on to 2001, this is the swing that completed the Grand Slam. Tiger, at this point, had actually made some quite big changes with his coach, Butch Harmon. They tried to make the swing less across the line, less closed. They were working really hard on trying to keep the club out in front of him more. So we can see here that actually in this first part of the swing, his hands probably move away from his body a little bit. It's like a bit of disconnection between his body and his arms. And he's added in quite a bit of forearm rotation to the shaft. He's much flatter now at this stage in the swing than it was before. But it's still not masses of hip turn, but definitely longer. The club is perfectly neutral. This is absolutely textbook. I'm not exactly criticising these swings. You know, Tiger was such a dominant player. It's hard to argue that any of his positions were wrong. Starting the downswing, I think this is where we start to see Tiger's sort of famous squat position move. He's still trying to hit the ball really far. He's playing fearlessly with the driver at this stage in his career. So look at how much he compresses his torso to leg angle. You know, that move there is a huge power move. It's very interesting. It's very hard to do. You don't really see it an awful lot in players that aren't on tour, really. And it's that compression of his torso angle is what allows him to turn really hard and then explode up through the ball. So you can see as he swings down and through, he's done an unbelievable job of keeping his forearms closed, his shoulders square, and getting his hips massively open. This is something that he's just not able to do anymore. Not something he's been able to do since he's had his back surgeries and everything else that's happened to him. But that is the position you are searching for if you're trying to be a good driver of the ball. Again, that's the McIlroy position. Interestingly, I think during this period, Tiger backs off the driver slightly. He squats down and just backs off it a little bit. But again, massive extension through there. Look at that left foot just jumping away. You know, that's incredible. So much drive with the legs. That one looked like he's probably gone a bit right, but you know, a brilliant swing. Like I say, the swing that won the Slam. Hard to find any faults with that.
Oh hey, you're still here. Thank you. So most of you guys watching this are not subscribers, and although the few subscribers that are watching this, thank you very much for being here. I could really do with the help. If you subscribe, like and comment, even if you think I'm stupid, that really boosts the engagement. It helps get this video out to more people and helps me grow. So anything you can do to help, that'd be great.
Okay, moving on to the 2002 swing. Now, interestingly, this swing was filmed just 4 months before Tiger sacked Butch. So although Tiger wins here, he is starting to maybe not be so happy with his game. At this point in their relationship, Butch was keen on Tiger just maintaining what he's got. He was the most dominant player the world has ever seen. So why would you want to change? Why would you want to upset that? But Tiger, with his sort of relentless passion for improvement and wanting to be more dominant and more dominant, wasn't quite happy with that, and ultimately they parted ways. Absolutely textbook first move away from the ball. We are starting to see a little bit more hip turn from this swing with Tiger. The shaft perfectly on plane here. He's taking the club back really well. Can't fault him anything with that. Gets to the top. Again, the swing hasn't really changed much since 2001. It's only been a year, and Tiger has just won everything in sight, really. So you can sort of see why Butch was saying, come on, let's just not change anymore. We're doing really well. Let's just keep at it. But again, so here we go. Tiger's, and again, we get to admire Tiger's crazy compression. Wow. Just look at that. That is incredible. That move there is unbelievable. He's done a left shoulder goes down. His pelvis tilts back. He squats down. All the pressure's in his legs. Club stays nice and wide. He gets his arms in front, and then he jumps up through it. This period, Tiger was really working on just trying to sync up his body and his arms. Tiger could hit the ball an awful long way, but also had some pretty wide misses in there. So Tiger would often do drills with Butch where he would stop at the top and then swing down, not allowing his hips to spin out too early. But in this swing, we can't see any of that. Impact absolutely perfect. Square shoulder and open hips, closed forearms, and then up and through, no problem. So that was 2002, 2005. So this is right at the start of Tiger's dominant streak in the Haney era. So Tiger would go on to win 8 consecutive times, win a couple more majors, but it all starts with the 2005 Masters. So things have changed significantly from that previous swing. Tiger's posture is much more upright. He's got a much weaker grip, and they're working very much on Hank Haney's swing playing theory of trying to keep the club parallel to that initial playing angle as possible. At the top of the swing, Tiger's swing is much longer than it was before, almost over swinging now. The club face is much more open. We start to see more hip turn, which I like personally. As he transitions, he's got that nice compression move. That is incredible. That's what it takes to create the speed that Tiger could create. Interestingly, his right heel started to come up there, which it wasn't doing before. Tiger definitely was struggling with driver, so we've gone from fearless Tiger with driver, where he was just launching high draws around, to now definitely playing in fear of the hook, hitting big blocks and cuts, which is what him and Haney were working on, trying to get the driver swing in a position to where he could just hit it in play. Maybe not hit it quite so far, but get it in play a lot more, which is why he worked on getting that face more open and trying to lay the club off a little bit more. But again, all of this is pretty, the Tiger we know, closed shoulders, open hips, lots of lag, masses of extension, and then up through the ball. Interestingly, that one looked like it also went pretty right. But most golfers really like the 2000, 2001, 2002 swing that Tiger had, but this swing is actually pretty underrated. Tiger was really, really dominant when working with Hank, and arguably he played some of the best golf of his entire career in this period. I quite like that Tiger was hitting lots of punch fades, lots of cuts off the tees just to get the ball in play, and then it was with his irons he did all the damage. So this is quite a good swing. I like how tall he stays through his backswing. I like that it's a bit longer, and I like that the club sort of stays on plane a lot more. Then, obviously, we all know Tiger's career sort of left the rails a little bit. No majors from 2008 to 2019. Tiger, in this period, sacked Hank Haney, hired Sean Foley, sacked Sean Foley, hired Chris Como, sacked Chris Como. And in this period, Tiger is just working by himself on his game. He's had so many surgeries, so many injuries that he feels like only he knows how his body works and how he can swing. So no one can really tell him what to do anymore because his body's so broken. So he just likes to work on it by himself. But he returned in 2019 to bring us all something a bit special. Tiger hung on in the end to fend off some of the best players in the world in one of the greatest victories we've all ever seen. So swing's a bit different here. A lot more hip turn early in the swing. That gap between his legs becomes apparent very early. His hands work a lot more inside than they did before. Tiger was always trying to keep his arms out in front, where now he lets them drift in, which I prefer personally. Tiger's pretty much exclusively playing fades now with driver, as opposed to the younger self where he was just bombing draws everywhere. This probably mainly due to the fact that the drivers are longer and they don't spin as much, so the draw's much harder to control with the driver. But he's definitely exclusively playing cuts. At the top of the swing, he's not as wide as he used to be. His hands aren't as above his head as they used to be. But again, I think all of these are just things that happen because he's been injured and he's just not able to move like he used to. Swing's a bit shorter as he starts down. During this period, we know Tiger's not using his legs half as much as he used to do. He's a much more upper body power player now. So we do see a bit more rotation. It's probably less rotation in the lower body, but more rotation in the upper body. He still has that classic right arm under left arm look that we all love, but he's powering this swing much more with his upper body. Look at that finish. It's a much more upper body driven swing. He's not really letting that club turn over as much as he used to. It's definitely an anti-left driver swing. There's no doubt about that, but it's still absolutely Hall of Fame worthy. So which is the best swing? It's a tough argument because Tiger, it was such a different player in all these different eras. He was a bomber. The courses were short. He was just destroying golf courses in his younger years, where as he got older, he's had to sort of pick the courses apart a little bit more, play a bit more strategic, and it's just a completely different game now. I really like the 1997 swing, but I'm not sure that would have lasted an entire career. I also really like the 2005 swing because of how aesthetic the open face and the on-plane shaft looked. But I've got no complaints or no arguments with any of these swings. They're all absolutely functional. They're all absolutely spot on, and that's why Tiger's been able to win as much as he's won. So I can't really pick one, sadly, as which is the best. I'm a massive Tiger fan, and whichever one allowed him to win was good enough for me.